ever want to be comfortable. That's how I know I'm doing the right thing. If I'm a little bit uncomfortable, because then I know that it doesn't come from me.
We are here on Sober Champs today. It is Thursday. We are heading into All-Star Weekend down here in Pioneer Square. We are at Color Studios. We have Kristin here, and we want to welcome you here to Sober Champs. We've known each other for a long time. Well, how you doing, Kristin? What's up?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Doing good.
Good. Welcome.
Back in the square.
Yeah, that's right. Come on. You were talking. Yeah, all right, we'll get to it. But so we usually started off by the big question. And the big question, I remember when we brought Larry on, I asked him the big question, and he wasn't sure his sober date. So we're going to ask you, and I'm pretty sure you might know yours.
I do know my sober
Okay,
date.
go ahead. Shout out Larry. We love you, man.
It's 10/21 of 2018 is my sober date.
Okay, 10/21 of 2018. All right. Did you have to go to treatment?
I did.
All right.
Did have to go to treatment.
All right. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
So let's do this. What was your first drink? Do you remember it? Drink.
Yes.
What's up?
Yeah, I had, I think I was like 12 or 13, and it was Malibu rum and Coke. And we were at a party, and my parents were like hosting it. And I was running around like delivering drinks. They had me running back to the bar, and I just decided to drink one. And nobody knew but me until I was throwing up later that night, because I didn't just have one. The first time I drank, I had more than one.
Oh, interesting. And your family found you? And were there any, do you remember the conversations about that?
Yeah, I think it was pretty chill at that point. I think they thought I learned my lesson. Like, I was sick, I didn't feel good. You know, you have that, I'm never going to do this again. And so I think they thought that was it, and that it wasn't that big of a deal at that point.
Yeah, so then you probably did it again, huh?
I did it again.
All right.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
I think there was definitely some space in between, but I remember, 14, 15 years old, like stealing wine coolers. That was like a thing. Again, just like those high sugar drinks, and always drank, even if it was one or two at that time, it was like I drank until I puked. And then high school, you start going to parties and stuff like that, drinking stuff out of a punch bowl and things and fruit and coolers. Yeah.
Spodies. That was the first one I went to. Yeah.
Tore up from the floor up.
Yeah. Spodies were interesting because, like, I when I first started, I wouldn't put the fruit in my cup, right? So I would just drink and there was a couple of people that'd be like, "Nah, Pete, try the fruit."
The fruit had the most.
Try the fruit, and I remember being like, "Nah, man, like what? It's just like for taste." And then they were like, "Nah, try the fruit," and that was when I was like, "Ooh, that was a whole different loaded." And so when you were in high school, had you had any consequences yet? Like, other than throwing up and being sick and stuff like that, what was no consequences?
No consequences. I chilled out for a while. I played baseball growing up, Little League.
Oh, so you were like one of the girls on the boys team.
I wanted to be on the varsity softball team, and I felt like that my skill was enough to walk onto the varsity softball team in high school. And I think I was a junior or a sophomore. And the coach was also like the health teacher or something. I don't remember exactly what happened, but she was like, nah. And I think I went to like half of a tryout, and just like the vibe was like, this isn't going to work out for me. And so I walked off, and they were holding tennis tryouts. And so I walked on to the tennis varsity team and played tennis. And one of the big things with the high school sports, and I know not everybody did this, but there was no drinking. And I stuck to that. For some reason, like, I took it serious enough that I was like, I don't need to be out here drinking. So I chilled out for a while I was playing sports. And then once there wasn't any sort of accountability, like things just went wild. My first like major consequence that I can remember was my boyfriend at the time was a year older than me. So they had graduated. I was a senior in high school. I was living at home, going to school. Every night they had this like bachelor pad. They had all rented a house. And we would all go over there and just drink. And I didn't want to drive home. So I would pass out there and be home in the morning. And my mom had said to me, if this happens again, your shit's going to be on the front lawn, like straight like that. And the very next night, I knew she was serious. She never ever said things that she didn't follow through on. So I knew it was real. And I went with the intention of having like 1 or 2 drinks, and I was going to just chill, and didn't make it home. And so I pulled up in the morning and literally all of my stuff from the room was on the front lawn. And I was 18 years old. So, you know, we like thrive in chaos, right? So every time shit got real rough or weird, I'd just turn it up a notch. And I had a job at Red Robin. I was serving at the time. So I had cash tips, was making some money, went and got a 3-bedroom apartment right on Pack Highway.
What?
Check this out. $750 a month for a 3-bedroom apartment. So that's me and 2 other roommates. We each paid $250 a month. Like that's what rent was back then.
Yeah.
Right. Hold on real quick. So where did you grow up? What area of Seattle?
I grew up in Des Moines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Des Moines.
So
okay.
I've been in Des Moines since real young, and still live there.
So you're all right. You're a towner. Yeah, all right. So when you got this, are your parents together still?
No. So my dad and mom split up when I was 5.
Yeah.
And both remarried and have been with the same individual since then. So stable, considering.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Divorce is a part of my family story, and that was rough. So when you decided to get this 3-bedroom on Pack Highway, so if anybody out there knows about Pack Highway, or if you don't know, Pack Highway is a hot spot for just live action, all types of action, any types of action you can find is on Pack Highway. Yeah. Go ahead.
So not only Pack Highway, but 216.
Oh shit. We're talking about the
what do they call it? Like the killer corner
by the
or something like that?
7-Eleven?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Just
okay.
Not a place that 3 18-year-olds should be by themselves.
And
probably.
you're not that big. Like you're kind of on the shorter end of things.
Yeah.
Like
have a big attitude. But
right.
As far as size goes.
Yeah.
Which has gotten me into some trouble too. But
Rudy, have you ever been lived on some crazy streets like Pack Highway?
Never Pack Highway, but we used to drive up and down there, and nothing good ever happens there like after a certain hour. But I have a similar story to you, like where I got an apartment pretty much right out of high school, and it just became the party spot, and after hours, and just getting evicted from apartments, and similar story.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's go. Yeah, we're on the road now. We're on Pack Highway. Let's go.
Pack Highway. And and not only that, but I'm in the restaurant industry, right?
Oh yeah, right. High as a kite. I heard about this.
It's just craziness. And I have a fish bowl, and like I'm running everything, right? So you come in my house, you pay money because we're bound to get some sort of noise violation, or the police are going to get called or something like that. And so I have cash all the time that I'm paying either the cops or a ticket for people to be at my house. But we called it the APT. Like it was the spot. Like
hold up,
all the time.
Did you just say that you charged people to come into your home?
And they paid.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So you are running a
party
club
house
at your home.
Because you're not 21 yet, so
I'm
you
not
guys are
21.
partying
Not
at
21,
the spot.
but you probably got a couple 21-year-olds around, so you can get some whatever you need. So are drugs drugs part of your story?
So drugs are part of my story, 100%. But at that time, I had some friends that had gotten into the Oxycontin scene, and I saw early on what that looked like. And so that was a hard no for me. Like, no hard drugs. Like, you can bring alcohol, you can smoke weed, but that was it. So if I found out you were either high or brought drugs in the apartment, I kicked you out and you couldn't come back.
Damn, you're like the boss,
Which is
the
crazy,
bouncer.
right?
Yeah, all right. I don't know. Yeah, all
I
right.
mean, for real though.
Okay.
And part of that ego, right?
Yeah, yeah. And okay, so then you are running this establishment.
APT. Yeah.
What does APT stand for?
Apartment. But we just called it the APT.
Like, is this some sort of game? All right. Yeah. We got the APT going, and then I'm guessing it doesn't turn out very well.
So, I mean, it was a crazy spot. We weren't the only ones doing crazy stuff, and thankfully, the other crazy stuff was more crazy than what we were doing. And the band split up. I mean, we just ended up moving to other places, getting other spots, like doing other things. And so I ended up, we moved to Frederick Way, so still on Pack Highway, just down on 272nd, which is also a great neighborhood.
I mean, you're hitting the hot spots.
I mean, rent was cheap.
I don't know.
Obviously.
Mondo, you ever been to Federal Way or Des Moines? Yeah, been out there. Okay, yeah, all right, keep going. How about you, Rudy?
Yeah, I mean, just a visit though.
Yeah,
Yeah, I ain't pulling up on no
Don't
apartment.
stay too long.
All right, no offense out there, man. We
Nah,
really,
for real.
it's really changed a little bit, a little bit. Yeah. So then now you're in Fed or Way, and now you got a new apartment on
Yep.
Pack Highway.
Yep.
Yet again.
Yet again.
How old are you? 20.
Yeah, 20, maybe just turned 21
Oh.
by that time. Yeah.
Tell us a story about that time. Like some crazy. You give me
Just some crazy story?
Give me a crazy story about running an apartment and charging people.
It was always crazy. Like but again, like I'm probably going to say this a lot, thrive in chaos. And also on top of that, I love to be in control. And so I have something that you want. And so you're going to do whatever I say, or you don't have to be here. And I don't know how I got this position or if I just took it and people ran with it, but there was enough people that respected me for whatever reason in that scene that they listened to me. So if like somebody wanted to pop off and not do what I was saying, like I had 10 other people that were like, nah, this is Kristin's place or whatever. And the two girls that I moved, I'm still friends with them.
Wow.
That's who I went to Lake Taps with. Her family is one of my best friends. They're both like still really good friends of mine. So just crazy full circle.
That is a full circle
Yeah.
little story.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So 21, living in Frederick Way. I'm playing on a co-ed softball team.
Okay.
Up at the Stephen J. Underwood Parks in Des Moines. And, co-ed. So I hit a line drive to the shortstop, who was like, this guy's 6'2". People are drinking, right? They got coolers. It's not a sober league. Like, it's a drunk league, if anything.
Yeah.
And I'm running through first base, and they put like some little tiny ass girl on first, and he just decides to bomb the ball, and she steps out of the way. She's like, I'm not fucking with this. And it like hits me in the side of my face, right? Snaps my jaw up the center. And they have to wire my jaw closed. And so I go and do all that. They give me liquid Vicodin and a pair of pliers. And this was one of those, there's moments where you're like, this may have been a sign that you had a problem, but it never registered then. So they gave me these pliers, and they're like, in the event that you need to throw up, like you're going to have to cut your mouth open because you could aspirate and die. And they're like, you're taking liquid Vicodin. You can't have solid foods, right? I'm blending everything in a blender. And so we suggest you don't drink. And I'm like, okay. So I'm drinking alcohol while having and I'm carrying these pliers with me
Just in case.
everywhere because I'm not going to stop drinking. So in the event that I need to save my own life, I'm prepared.
Wow.
And that was my first experience with the effects of opiates and alcohol together. And that combination for me was like, this is it. This is it.
I know the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the feeling of like that like blanket of just like I found my home and I'm gonna be comfortable here. I think for me, even though the hard part was that alcohol. Like when cause see, like I felt like with enough opiates, I was drunk. Like but I wasn't like slurring and drunk. Like I don't know, there was this like I was talkative, but I wasn't. The side effects of alcohol weren't taking place, and so I really enjoyed just full blown like. But when I added full blown opiates, but when I added the alcohol, it was like a whole nother. I mean, 99% of the time I blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was so fucking like I take the pills because see I'm sitting here being a pharmacist, right? And I'm trying to figure out like what the right. I take these amount of pills and then I drink this much and then what happens, right? And it's like this scientific. I'm doing a test every time, and so when your mouth is wired shut like that, are you able to talk? Like
Not
you're
very
getting
well.
loaded, so you're just feeling the feeling of being loaded, and like you're not like having long discussions with
I mean,
people.
I don't even think I cared about having long discussions with people anyways. The point was the feeling
Feeling.
and the escape. I couldn't care less if you were talking to me or not. At some of those, yeah. I don't think that was ever it for me. It wasn't, this makes me more social or this makes me this. It was an escape.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. But that chemistry thing, right? That's a hard balance. And the scale tips all the time. And you're like, damn, like I definitely went. And then you add some other stuff, right? It's not just the two anymore. Now you got to have a third thing, right? Because you're too low. Now you got to get. And that, yeah, it's crazy.
So then you get your jaw wired. Now you have the opiates taste in your mouth, and you're like, "Ooh, this is kind of it." And so now what? Your jaw probably heals, and now you ran out of your prescription, and now you're 21 years old, maybe 22.
Yep. And I didn't realize the way that I was feeling when I stopped was withdrawal. I had no idea that my body had became somewhat physically addicted because nobody explained that to me. The doctors weren't like, hey, by the way, you should maybe, not drink more than you're prescribed. Or there wasn't like a sit down conversation, right? So, yeah, I felt like shit. And it's crazy because of the situation that I was in. They were like, well, when you start eating regular food again, it might make you sick. And so I was sick. And I was thinking it was because my body wasn't used to the food again. So in my mind, I was able to work through it. And then I didn't mess with that stuff again until it was presented to me later on. And I was like, ooh, I remember. Like, this is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's my story. I put that feeling in my back pocket. I remember being in high school and getting, like, just taking so many. And then running out, right? But not being like, well, now I need to get more. It's just that it ran out, but I'd be sick. And I'd be like, man, I don't know, man. I just got the flu, the bug. But then that feeling was put in my back pocket as like, well, if I could ever find that again and a lot of it, I would do that over anything. It was like, my drug of no choice. Right. Meaning, like, it eventually turned into, like, nah, man, I had to take it to be well. And, all right, so some years go by or something?
Some years go by, and this is the part that I'm not sure. Okay, I start dating somebody that has access to Oxycontin and
30s, 80s.
80s.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Right. And
I never seen an 80 in my life in like physical form.
Really?
Yeah, always 30s.
Yeah, no, you had to like suck the codeine. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like a
Come on.
process. And we were smoking them,
Okay.
obviously that was, and
But it took a minute to get to smoking, right? You didn't start off smoking.
no, I started off.
What?
Yeah.
God
Because
damn.
of the people that I was around,
Okay.
that was what they were, and they
Yeah.
had been doing it. So
Right.
maybe that wasn't what they were doing
Right,
at first, but
right.
that's what I started
But that's how
doing.
you started. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And whew, that feeling, right? It just comes right back. You're instantly reminded about, this escape. I mean, it just really felt like almost like you're superhuman, but like nothing matters all at the same time. Like, I really don't care. Nothing can bother me. I don't care. I really don't care. Completely numb to anything. And then the pharmacies found out, right, about what everybody was doing with the Oxycontin. So they changed the pill form. So now you can't smoke them anymore. And now they're not as available. And now, like, all these things were happening. And so the next best thing is heroin. Or I don't know, best thing or what you want to call it. But it was just, that was, and I'm physically addicted at this point, right? Like, I can't function without it. And, I do remember, there was like a snowstorm and we had driven somewhere, and people are, oh, meet here in 15 minutes. No, now I got to be over here. And, you're doing the runaround. And I was just like, how did I get here? How did I get here? And, my pride, my ego, I'm like, I'm the paying customer. Like, you meet me. Like, I'm not going to drive around but I just remember this, like, desperation. I couldn't function. And, like, we get back to the apartment and we got drop one in the snow. And just this, like, the people in Pioneer Square digging in the cracks of the bricks and stuff, like that type of behavior for this thing. And it wasn't long after that I was like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot live like this. This is not me. I'm involved in things that I should never be involved in. I was living a life that I had no business being a part of. I was doing stuff that I had no business doing. And it was dangerous and illegal and, like, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, it was just a different life. And yeah, I remember that, just desperation to stop that. But at that point, I thought that was my only problem, right? Like, if I can stop the heart drugs, if I can stop the runaround, I could save a lot of money. First of all, I wouldn't be in such a desperate position that way. And then I can just drink. And I actually gave myself at that point a sober date, because I was like, I'm sober. I'm not doing hard drugs. I'm sober.
Yeah. So a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Like, they are sober from the drug of no choice.
Right.
I tried that. Didn't
Yeah.
work out super
Yeah.
well. But
Yeah.
Wait, did you ever lose your coke and then, like, go fucking rummaging through life?
I
Like,
would, yeah.
finding
Coke or Molly or, I was like looking for it all. Like, because my thing was the uppers and like party drugs and stuff. And I was curious too about, like, because you were describing, on the pills, how it made you feel. And like, because the heroin was one thing that I was always really scared of, because I did it once and it made me feel so good. Like, because we were snorting Molly and somebody had some Molly that it was brown. And I had seen brown Molly before, so I wasn't really alarmed. But then we were snorting this Molly and it was it ended up to be heroin. And I remember just sitting in my friend's car, like, I couldn't even get out of the car. I just felt so good, and I was like melting into the seat. And it was like, but the next morning I woke up, I was like, all right, I'm not going to do that again, because it felt so good. But when you get past that stage of addiction, is it kind of like you're doing it just to feel normal?
Oh, for sure. There's still that initial, and I got to the point where I was using needles.
Yeah.
And there's that initial rush, right? When you feel the effects, and then yeah, it's just, you're literally, just back to normal, like back to baseline, like from sick to like, you feel a little bit, but they're never enough, right? There's just never enough. I remember doing like, cooking cottons and stuff like that just to get every last drop, and just, it was insane. And what happened with that, another point where I was like, hey, this may be a problem, before it just got really inconvenient for me, is I had gotten an abscess on my arm, and I was down in the square here, and I had to go to a free clinic because I didn't want to go to a regular doctor. And, I'm laying there and I'm like, are you going to give me anything? And he's like, miss, if you got this from what I think you got this from, there's nothing here that I can give you that's going to like counter effect what you already have going on. So basically he was like, I can't give you any more pain medication than what you probably already have in your system that's going to make this less painful.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say you were on Pioneer Square, what were you doing down here at this point? Like, were you just getting your dope down here?
No, I was living in Seattle. So I lived on 4th and Jackson at the Addison on 4th. I actually worked there too. So I had gone from the restaurant industry into property management, and I was a leasing agent. And the Addison on 4th is a historic building, and it was like managed by Seattle Housing. It was subsidized housing, but they were converting it to tax credit, and they were renovating the whole building, like the interior. And it was like this amazing project. And I was like, this is so cool to be a part of. But yeah, lots of stuff.
And you were getting high at that time.
So high.
Like, even when you transitioned your jobs into property management.
You know what I did? So this is how I kind of found out about methadone, because I was like, I have to drug test for this drug. Well, if you go to a methadone clinic and you're on methadone, you have a prescription for methadone. And so you just give that to the people drug testing you, and you're clear. So, and I'm sure I found that out from some very upstanding citizens.
That's a pretty, okay.
Yeah. don't have any.
Hey, she just gave the hack of a lifetime right there, brother.
So heroin doesn't show up; it'll just the methadone.
So you have to stop using the heroin. But
Okay.
methadone, I mean, you can operate, right? Takes away the initial edge of being like sick, and you can also use the two together.
Right.
It doesn't counteract one another like they say Suboxone does.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so you were going to methadone clinic, getting to get this job.
Yeah.
So you get this job, and now, I mean, at this point, you get the job. Now you're on heroin. And so what? Real quick, going back to like when the pills transitioned to the heroin. There was a time where, for me, so you at this point, fentanyl is a part of the pills, or you're making sure they're prescriptions, or you're like, how are you making sure they're what they are?
I wasn't even aware that fentanyl was a thing, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know when I was done by the time that was like out there as far as like what I was hearing about. I never knew about fentanyl when I was using.
Yeah. All right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's special.
Lucky.
Yeah, that's a luck. That's ooh.
Yeah.
All right. So now you transition to heroin. You're at this property manager job. All right. Now you're at 4th and Jackson. Now we're in the town. We are in downtown. We are in Pioneer Square, right where we're at right now. So abscess on your arm. Now what? What are you doing right now? Like, what are you doing when you
Just-
exit that?
Yeah, right.
You got an ashes on your arm and
Get high.
right. Just get high.
Just get high. That was the solution.
Right.
That was my solution to everything.
Every day, did you have a moment? I'm just curious how people thought about this. Did you have a moment of like, should get sober? Was there like one thought out of the million that you have in a day, like, this is not it?
It was never get sober. It was, for a long time, it was, I'm doing this wrong. And now when I got to the hard stuff, I knew I had no business doing that stuff. And I was like, this is not sustainable long term. Like, somebody's going to figure it out at some point. And like, either I'm going to get caught doing stuff I'm not supposed to be doing. Or, you know, I don't know, my family is going to see the track marks on my arm. Like, something's going to happen. I can't sustain this long term. But getting sober, as far as like stopping everything, was never in my consciousness. I was never like, this is something that I should probably look at doing. It's just, I need to figure out a better way. And whether that's like taking pills instead of, you know, whatever, it was just like, I just needed to figure it out better.
Yeah, I can understand that. That was, so when you would get high like this and you're roaming around Pioneer Square, like I mean, there's sharks and wolves and this is a dangerous area. And so your family was unaware of this addiction?
Yes.
And would you see your family often, or were you like obviously like trying to stay as far away from them, but like say hello or something, you know, on the phone and be like, hi, how's it going? Or were you like disconnected from your family at this point?
I definitely didn't show up as much as I used to. I made a point to kind of stay away. I think, I just don't even think that they realized. I think they thought I was just doing my thing downtown. I had this new job. I was like, and, you know, until things started getting real weird, I don't think that they had any idea what was going on.
All right, let's get into the real weird. What happened real weird?
So wait, I need to back up a second.
Go ahead.
Okay, so before I get the job downtown, I forget about this part. I work at CED, Consolidated Electrical Distribution. So I'm selling electrical parts to electricians. And I'm still getting high. So this is in between the restaurant and the downtown.
Pills or heroin?
Pills at that time.
Were the pills and the heroin different kind of beasts for you? Like, were the pills almost the same as like you're smoking pills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, different. Well, just more intense, I think. And I think probably more addictive. I think
Heroin,
okay, for sure.
Keep going. Sorry.
And so I stole money from that job. So they had a safe. So we had like a counter, right, where people would come and buy stuff, and most everything was invoiced. But every now and then we would have a cash sale. And so I was in charge of taking that money and reconciling it. And I would take a little bit and then return it and take a little. No, but I was the only person doing the accounting.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So,
until one day they check your safe.
Right.
Yeah.
And my boss at the time, and I've communicated with him since then, which is great.
Hold on, you're saying you made amends?
Yes.
Okay, all right. It's okay. Yeah, we're good.
And he had every right to call the police, get me arrested. Definitely got fired. But he drove to my mom's house and said, "This is what is going on, what I think is going on." And turns out, you know, he had some experience with that. And he's like, this is something that I would want somebody to do for me. So he talks to my mom. So my mom calls me on the phone. And this is another kind of part of the methadone clinic and stuff like that. That's kind of how I started like seeing other solutions. But anyway, so my mom calls me and she's like, what's going on? Right. And this is what I say, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And that was it. And she's like, then parents, right? So everything's suspicious after then. Like she's looking at me weird, rightfully so. So then I really don't come around that much.
Of course.
So fast forward back to the downtown. So I know that to get this new job, like with the methadone, and then I tell my mom, right? So this is my thing. So I get this new job that works for the job. And then I'm like, hey, mom, there's this thing, so I'm like, I'm getting help, which was not true. And then, yeah, I'm so, again, like thriving chaos. So I'm at this apartment complex that's predominantly housing, subsidized housing. And there was some rough characters that lived there. But I've said this a lot. I was a chameleon. I was able to connect with people for whatever reason. My experiences, what I was out and about doing, the things that I was involved in. I could meet people where they were at. There was like, I'm not going to judge you. Like, you don't know, but whatever. So I have these people in this apartment complex that I work at and now I live at that I've connected with. And I would see them out like on that bridge on Main, the bridge on 4th and Main, that bridge. And if I'm walking by and somebody says anything to me and somebody's out there, like they're going to say something. So I had some people that looked out for me and God too, obviously, because I had no business doing what I was doing, where I was doing it. But
yeah, because what I can envision is like you're running this apartment building, but you're getting high. So you need to go out and get the dope. And then cats is watching you as people watch you, or especially downtown. Cats will see, oh, there she goes again. Okay, all right. Or where is she going? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And so were there points in your active addiction where you were like, when you would go to these places to pick up your dope, like what would you be? I used to like, I just tried so hard for no one to ever find out that I was high on pills. So like I would maneuver, I would go this way, I would hide over here, I would do it when no one's looking. And so there was this obsession with like trying to uphold this like facade. But there was some point, it sounds like, that you just threw in the towel and were like, I'm out here.
I think I wasn't like crossing the street in front of the building and like exchanging, in front of the building.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one addict to another, like, who's going to call me out? Like, who?
Dude, that's the most fucked up part. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, now you're one of us. Like, not only do we, probably what happened, right, is now we got something on the lady that works in the office, right? So I want to pay my rent late. And nothing ever went that far, but who knows? Maybe that was the thought process. But yeah, it never came crumbling down at that point in time.
So how long did it take for you to get crumbling down?
A long time. No,
that sounds terrible.
Right?
What you were doing. Yeah.
So I'm driving one time in Des Moines. I think I'm on my way to my mom's house or I'm coming from my mom's house. And I have paraphernalia in my car and all types of stuff. Yeah. And so I get pulled over, right? And, the cop is like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, where are you going? And I was like, to my mom's house or coming, whatever I was doing. And my license still has a Des Moines address. And he's like, so do you still live in this spot? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, you didn't change it on your ID. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, why don't you get out of the car? And I was like, at that point, I don't know, my rights or anything. And I'm just like, okay. So I get out of the car and he starts going through my car. Opens up the glove compartment. Like there's a center console. It's a Toyota Camry. sees all the stuff, handcuffs me, puts me back in the car. And I remember sitting down in that car being like, this is it. This is where it stops. Like, I don't have to hide it anymore. Everybody's going to know. And then I can figure out another way. Like, I was relieved. I was relieved to be in trouble. And I knew, whatever was going to happen, it wasn't going to be worse than what was already going on in my life, because it was hard to keep up this facade and do the things. And so I'm sitting in the back of the car, and he gets a call on the radio or whatever, and he's like, "It's your lucky day." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got a more important call." And takes me out of the car, I swear, takes my handcuffs off and lets me walk and drive my car away. And I think about that to this day. I'm like, I wish I knew his name, not to thank him, but like, that might be some God. That's probably a little more privilege, and maybe a combination of both of them. But I remember in that moment, like, I wanted to be done, and I thought that was my ticket. Like, if I got caught, then I could be honest, and then I could be done. And that didn't happen.
I think one of the things that is part of my story is privilege, and how, like, even though as a white male, I don't always dress or talk as let's say a stereotypical white person, but when these moments would happen where it could go one way or the other, privilege can step in and take us away from the consequences. And I just wanted to acknowledge that that's something that in our society happens a lot. And, and I feel like that's one of the issues that we see in our society, is that we just, the privilege is kind of this really messed up situation, because now all of a sudden it's really, fentanyl is really a dangerous thing. And whereas like crack and cocaine were a problem, but everybody was just like very, it's a huge problem that crack cocaine is a problem. And when people were caught with it of color, they were put away for a really long time. Whereas when you're caught, cats don't even get pulled over for fentanyl or anything like that. So I just want to take a moment for that. But continue.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's
like
true.
yeah.
Now fentanyl, now it's a public health crisis,
Right.
As opposed to like when the crack was going on, that was like arrest them, like 3 strikes you're out, all that stuff.
Well, now it's like go to treatment and help the people that are on fentanyl and help them and get better. And they had to sell. I don't know. It's just this interesting. I'm glad we're here where we are today, but just acknowledging that. So when you got sat down and then stood back up and drove off, it sounds like you just kept going.
Well, yeah, I must be above the law at that point.
For
right?
real. That's how you'd feel.
Untouchable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you ever have any consequences with the law in your active use?
No.
Damn, man. That's pretty intense.
Isn't
How many
that
years did
crazy?
you use?
A long time. Okay, so I got an MIP. I got put in jail one time for an MIP, but that doesn't even count. Right? Yeah.
We're not.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice try.
Thanks.
Nice try. Did you ever go to jail?
No, I got really lucky a lot of times too. I had some privilege. I was just thinking when you told that story, like one time I was high, I was rolling off ecstasy. I was driving my car, and my car died in the middle of the freeway. I had 2 friends in the back, and it was like in the middle lane on I-5.
What?
Yeah, and there was cars like swerving around us, and I thought I was gonna get rear-ended, right?
For sure.
And I'm high, I'm drunk, I'm all this stuff, and this like angel like cop like came from behind me. She like threw her lights on, and I was like, okay, I'm about to go to jail. Like, and then she's like, put your car in neutral. I'm about to push you off the freeway. She like pushed me off Seneca Street, and then just like was like, have a good day, and it's just like I've had some other stories like that where it's just, I should have went to jail, but it probably privilege and maybe a little bit of God combination. So yeah, I've gotten lucky a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those stories are unlimited over here. Yeah, I did go to the jail, and that was a really scary thing, man. But anyway, all right. So we get to this place, and you have been using, and you keep going. You're above the law. All right, let's get to it. Like, was there? Well, first, you have 2 kids, and so you haven't had your son yet.
No.
Okay.
Thank God.
All right.
Yeah. So I end up like getting to the place where I don't want to wait on people anymore. It's too time consuming. It's too expensive, and I don't like being run around. And so my ego and pride, or whatever you want to call it, I was like, I can't be doing this anymore. Like, can't be, as much as I was picking up and stuff like that, like it just was too time consuming. And at some point, like that was the deciding factor. Not that I'm ruining my life, not that I look crazy, not that my friends think I might have narcolepsy. What's that? Like when you fall asleep because I'm nodding out. Yeah. One of my friends was like, you should go to the doctor and get checked out for narcolepsy. I think something might be wrong. But for real.
Were there people in your corner that were that weren't, let's say downtown, or were there people in your corner that knew that you had a problem, or were you like hiding it so well that no one knew?
I think I have one friend specifically who I've been friends with since high school, who knows me really well, who's in the program today, that knew something was wrong with me. I don't think she had identified what exactly was going on, but she knew something was wrong. And I remember we had sat outside of a bar at one time, and she was like checking on me, and I knew she knew something, but I wasn't ready to have those conversations. And I just didn't really go around those people. Like I'd show up to a baby shower or something and just want to immediately leave because it got really hard to pretend. And I didn't feel like I belonged there anymore, right? Like your self-worth, like how you feel about yourself, like a superhero in my own right in the drug world, right? Because I'm not getting caught for the shit I'm doing. But I go back to my friends or my family and I'm just like a shitty person, like somewhere that I never ever thought I would be and never wanted to be. And I just didn't feel like I belonged there, like that they shouldn't even have me around, really.
Right, if they really knew what you were up to.
Yeah.
There would be no way they would accept you.
Associate with me. No, why would they? Right. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you get to
So I get to a place where I'm just like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. But more of it was an inconvenience.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's a God shot right there. Just like I'm going to. This is really just not.
Not it.
I can't just keep running around chasing these drug dealers around and chasing this shit. This is a waste of time.
I think there was a part of me
the fuck?
that always knew that I had alcohol too. Alcohol is my drug of choice through and through. Always has been. And so was I losing that much? My hardest thing with the opiates was the physical addiction. Like I think for a while I would have given it up just for pure inconvenience, but I was I couldn't function. I had to go to work and I had to do all these things. So I went, because I had insurance and I was working at this apartment complex, I went and got a Suboxone subscription. And I started taking Suboxone, sold half, kept half, still just not, doing everything on the up and up, but also it was helpful. It was helpful for me. And what I think that did for me was curbed my alcohol withdrawal. So I would drink on it. And I, for the most part, I obviously used less than was even prescribed to me because I was selling. So I would drink and then I would feel like crap in the morning and I would pop some of that and then it just leveled me out. And so I go through my day just fine. And then drink again. Just, it was the same thing, but it kept everything kind of even keel. And then I find out I'm pregnant. And so I'm Googling because the only person, this is wild actually, the only person that knows about the Suboxone is the doctor that's prescribing it to me. Like, I'm not telling people that this is what I'm doing. Well, and the people that I'm selling it to, I guess. And so I'm Googling, like, what happens if you're using Suboxone while pregnant. And so
That's not a.
it's not good.
Yeah, just good when you go Googling things and like, it probably didn't turn out very well.
Yeah. So what I found on Google was that it can be dangerous sometimes to completely stop taking it because of the withdrawal or whatever your body goes through. So, because I'm a doctor now, based off Google.
PhD. Yeah.
So I wean myself to like the lowest dose I can without having like severe physical withdrawal. I don't tell my pediatric doctor that I'm using that. And I don't tell my doctor that I'm pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I go all the way through my pregnancy, and you go once a month, right? You have to pee in a cup because you can't test positive for drugs. You get 3 strikes. So you can't test positive cocaine or anything like that, or else they won't prescribe it to you. So once a month I was going, and just as I got bigger, I would wear more clothes. And I delivered my son with nobody ever knowing anything, and literally counted fingers and toes. Like, the amount of anxiety that was producing, like, the entire time I was pregnant with him was just insane. I don't know why I couldn't. Like, if a doctor was prescribing it, right? I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
And when you say you don't know, you just don't know why you weren't honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think maybe there was some fear that they would take it away from me and I wouldn't be okay.
For sure.
And that's probably the biggest part, is the fear.
I mean, that disease was very much in charge, it sounded like, throughout this whole situation.
Yes.
And so, it doesn't want you to tell the truth.
No.
Yeah.
That insanity.
Yeah.
Just sounds like that's just, I mean.
The right thing to do would have been to be like, yo, I'm going to tell that I am on Suboxone to the doctor. And then the doctor over here would have been like, and I'm pregnant. So we need to work together and, do the best we can here.
Well, and why wasn't that at that point? Because at some point it was documented in my medical records. Because I'm like, if I go to the doctor, they don't offer me pain medication. So it's on my file. But like, why at that point was that not, I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works, but they didn't know and I didn't say.
So now you have a son.
Now I have a son.
And you are not sober.
I am not sober.
Yeah. So what does that look like?
I think, there's obviously something that changes when you have a child, right? Not only are you no longer just responsible for keeping yourself alive, but another human, but there's some purpose there. So up until that moment, in the way that I perceived myself, I knew that people loved me. I knew that they would be sad if I wasn't there. But like, I didn't have this greater purpose. I didn't have a reason to not. I did what I did when I wanted to do it. I really had this notion that like what I was doing was only affecting me, not anybody else, especially if I stayed away. And that all changed very quickly. And I think, people say this all the time, but it was so real for me when I walk out of the hospital, right, with this baby. So now my son has a dad. And so I'm with this person. We were together for 3 months because you have really responsible relationships when you're using as well.
That was a sarcastic
Yes.
remark.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you
So you
date
guys were together for 3 months.
3 months.
Yep.
I find out I'm pregnant.
Yes.
I don't, it's funny because I've thought about this because obviously there's other choices than to have a baby. Specifically when I got pregnant with my son, I really think, if I'm being 100% honest right now, I thought that if I had this thing, that would be a good enough reason for me, which is a lot of pressure to put on.
A little boy.
Yes.
Or a little baby.
Yeah.
That is a lot. I can relate.
Yeah.
Shit's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just if I put more responsibility on my plate for another human being, everything's gonna be just fine. That shit sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Crazy.
Yeah. So then you come out of the hospital. Are you with your
Yeah, we're together. He was an avid weed smoker. I mean, just 24/7. Just didn't function without it. But would get on me for my drinking and stuff like that. And which, didn't go over well. So I have Lennox. I'm breastfeeding, so I'm conscious of when I drink. For a minute, that was important to me. And then I just realized that I didn't have to breastfeed, and then I can just drink. And we ended up moving out of Pioneer Square. So on 4th and Jackson, there's Addison on 4th, and then there's a new construction building, which is not that new anymore, called the Icon. And that's the corner now. And it's where Bartell's used to be underneath. And so I was going to manage that building. But it wasn't, the construction took longer, whatever. So we moved to a sister property in Kent called Platform, right by Kent Station. It's on the Sounder train line, so that's how I'm getting to and from Seattle. And so my son's dad is staying home with him during the day, and I'm going to work. And I took 6 weeks off. 6 weeks off work, and then I went back. So he's a baby. And when he's not there with me physically, my responsibility in my mind changes.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah.
So I'm,
you're alone.
Yeah. So after work, I'm going and getting drinks with people from work and stuff like that. And then going back, and, his dad was not happy about that behavior. He was stressed out because, Lennox was a baby, and he obviously had some issues he was dealing with. If he had to be high all the time. And so we do that for a while, I guess. And then 4th of July, when Lennox was 1, we're supposed to go out to Bonnie Lake to this friend's house who I'm still friends with, the same place I went this year, and the same person that I lived in that APT with. And there was 3 beers in the fridge, and I'm like, I'm going to have a beer before we get there, and then I'll drink when we get there. And I pay all the bills, right? I have the job, I pay the bills, I hold down the fort, so nobody tells me what I can and can't do. And really that was my attitude. And I buy your weed. So if you want what you want, I'm controlling this whole thing. And so he made a comment about my drinking, and for whatever reason, it just set me all the way off. And there was an altercation that I won't go into full detail, but was scary enough with my son there that I was like, I cannot be around this person anymore. And granted, I have responsibility in what took place. And I think if I'm being absolutely honest, I was no longer willing to be associated with somebody that was that willing to try to stop me from drinking, that things got to that level. You know, it scared me that Lennox was there, but if I'm being honest, I didn't want anybody getting in the way of what I was doing, especially when I'm fronting for everything. Like, and that was my mentality. And so, so we split up. My mom buys him a ticket back to New York. That's where he's from. Ships all of his stuff to him there because I'm manipulative and I cry and I say, you know, X, Y, and Z, which was the truth, but didn't take any responsibility for my part in it. And so then it's just me and Lennox, and we move in with my grandma for a little bit, who lives in Puyallup, also on the Sounder train line. So now I'm commuting from Puyallup to Seattle and then back again every day. And my grandma's watching Lennox. And that was a lot for her. And so now finally this apartment's done that they've been working on. And so I moved back to the square, and ooh. Lennox and I move into this apartment complex. It's 127 units or whatever. And I have a 2-bedroom, and I'm getting a rent discount because I'm the manager. And we were the first people to move in. So we have this entire apartment complex to ourselves. So he's riding his trike up and down the hallways and like doing all this stuff, right? And it was like an adventure. Except for I was drinking. And now it's just me and him. And now I don't have
your grandma.
My grandma. I don't have another adult where, like, if I'm incapacitated, like somebody else at least is around. And I think there was a period of time there where I controlled the drinking to the extent that I could, knowing full well that we were in an empty apartment complex by ourselves. If there was a fire, like, that was it. And I had enough wherewithal to, like, understand that, like, I needed to be coherent enough to be able to, like, respond to something if it were to happen. But I didn't quit. Did not quit then either.
Where are you drinking? Like at all the bars around here? Or?
Yeah, and now there's a Bartell's in the bottom of where I live. And they're selling liquor behind the cabinet. Like, you can get shooters, you can get fists back there. So, yeah, very accessible. I wasn't even going out then because I didn't have a babysitter. So I just, and like I had a couple friends that worked with me, so they'd come over to the apartment and like just hang out. And, you know, I'd have one or two with them, right?
Yeah.
And then they'd go home, and then I'd have, you know, the rest of the 6-pack or whatever it was. But yeah, I think that time frame was probably the most chill I had been on doing what I was doing when it was just the two of us, because I was so concerned about, like, some sort of responsibility.
So, yeah. So then when did it change?
So then...
When did it turn, like, bad?
So in May of that following year...
Lennox is how old?
Lennox is 2.
Yeah.
Just about to turn 2. So May 5th. His birthday is May 25th. Remember when Facebook, you could share not your location, but like, I'm not even on Facebook. Maybe people still do this. I'm just on Instagram. But like, you would like say where you were at, right? Like, tag. I guess they
Pin
all
it or
social.
something?
Yeah.
All right.
And so this dude I went to high school with is like, oh, I'm like at the bar across the street from you. And I'm like, cool. And so we drink together. Somebody, you know, I went to school with, somebody my brother played football with, somebody I felt comfortable with to the extent that I felt like, you know, he knew my family a little bit, stuff like that. We start dating. 3 months later, I get pregnant with Aria. Again, just really good decision making. In between that time, he found out that I was using Suboxone. He found it or whatever and was like,
Hold up. You were using Suboxone this whole time?
Yeah.
While you were drinking in the apartment? Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Yeah, never
You never stopped. Okay.
So he's like, you know, this is bad, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get off of it. I use cocaine and a lot of alcohol to do it, but I end up getting off the Suboxone. And then I'm just drinking. So I don't have this extra filter to kind of help me through whatever the hangover, whatever you want to call it, whatever happens when I drink, I feel like for my body, this Suboxone was like pushing me through. I no longer have that. And I immediately can tell the difference. Just of how I feel when I'm drinking and how I feel in the morning after I've drank. And I don't have that thing to take the edge off. And so what do you do when you're drinking and you need to take the edge off? You drink more. And so I found myself, and this was right before I got pregnant with Aria, that this kind of behavior, this like, I'm going to take a shot in the morning, nobody will know, like that, take that edge off, that mentality that the Suboxone used to give me that I no longer had. I was now supplementing with alcohol, just more alcohol. So I find out I'm pregnant with Aria. Her dad and I had actually split up prior to me finding out that I was pregnant. Again, big altercation, just a really bad situation. And we were done. And I find out I'm pregnant. And again, I don't know why I thought the second time would definitely work, because the first time didn't. But I just had this idea that if I had kids and I had a partner and which I didn't have any of those things, but in my mind, if I could paint this picture this way, then everything would be okay. I would just have what I needed to be okay. And so, you know, her dad and I get back together and we're like, we're going to make this work. Yada, yada, yada. Very toxic relationship. I definitely consumed alcohol while pregnant with Aria and Lennox, but more with Aria. I remember telling myself, you know, well, the doctor says you can have 1 glass of wine, blah, 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 right? And I'm like, if I'm used to drinking this much, and they're saying for a normal person, I can at least have 3 glasses of wine, and the effect's the same, really, is like this rationale, right? That I'm just telling myself.
Yeah, doctor.
And yeah, I have 2 beautiful, healthy babies, not because of anything that I did. And I'm so blessed, and I have every reason to quit drinking. And I have my daughter, right? And I'm laying in the hospital bed, and I'm there by myself because her dad had to go because it was a really rough night for him or something, right? And I'm like laying there all by myself, and I'm like, I can still do this on my own. I can choose right now on my own. That's the key part. I can choose right now to leave this hospital and never drink again. I don't have to right now. I feel okay. I don't feel like I need to right now. And I can do this by myself. I can still do this by myself. And Aria's birth, she was born June 21st. My birthday is July 20th. My friends invited me to go out for my birthday, and I was wasted that night. And I didn't stop drinking until I checked myself into rehab. And what that looked like for those 4 months, they talk about, how progressive this disease is, that, your alcoholism is doing push-ups in the parking lot, blah. I mean, that shit is so true that, like, by the time I had put liquor in my body again, after being whatever you want to call it while I was pregnant, not drinking like that, I was shaking in the morning. I had full-blown DTs. I had to stay somewhat intoxicated the entire day through to function to any capacity. My boss, who was in the program at the time, starts figuring shit out and putting two and two together, and he's like, what's going on? And my mom shows up because my daughter's dad is calling, being like, Kristin, I'd be wasted. Like, when you get to that place, I don't know, it's just like, you're good, because you're just like, and then all of a sudden, you're just gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't even know which drink it would be on, right? One time I passed out in our model apartment at work because I didn't know at what part in the day, because I did it was a science, right? I did it a certain way, but every night, it would trip me up and I'd just be gone.
I think what you're talking about too, though, is that, like, when you, let's say you get that right prescription, right? You get that right dosage and you're rolling through and you're doing 3 days in a row, you're doing the same thing and you're getting the same results. Great. So it's beautiful. And then for some reason, for the same thing, but then blackout happens. Yeah. And then you're like, whoa, bro, but I did, what was it that, okay, well, this time now I'm going to adjust what I'm going to adjust. And so I think that's one of the scariest parts about when I am in active use, is that I could never find the right chemistry. I could never, like, there was just moments where, like, I remember I have a lot of documented active use. Like, I take my phone out and be like, man, dog, I need to remember this for one day when I'm about to be, like, sober, because, like, this is really bad. Because I remember doing, like, fireballing or whatever they call it. Like, I take Adderall and Oxy at the same time, because then I need to be, because I couldn't be a narcoleptic. I couldn't be, that this was people were starting to figure out, like, why you didn't go to work yesterday?
Yeah.
Or you didn't go to work today. Why are you so tired? You slept 8-10 hours, but you're over here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't have any more excuses. I'm running out. And so then I remember just taking Adderall to be like, and then mowing my lawn one day. And I got this picture of me putting this sunscreen on, and I didn't rub it all the way in. And I swear to God, I look like E.T. And I look like E.T. in the garage, and I'm getting ready to mow the lawn, and I'm, like, taking a picture of I'm doing one of these, like, surround sounds, like, man, don't ever forget this moment. You are so fucking high, and you gotta get so fucking high to just do a basic thing like mow the lawn of your home. And I thought I was gonna die, meaning my heart was doing this, but here I am, just like, okay, we're just gonna, this is normal, everything's normal, and it was just that who knows what was going on, right? But here I am as Dr. Cadigan trying to figure this out, trying to get it right, and so
I feel you about the alcohol too, because it was just there would just be that, like, I was always trying to figure out which drink, like, is gonna take me out. You know, is it like the 8th or the 9th or
what kind?
Yeah,
too, like, what kind of alcohol?
Yeah,
like, yo, man,
switching,
tequila was not my thing.
Yeah, that's what I tried tequila the very last time I was drinking. Yeah. But like, or add a little bit of cocaine or, you know, do this so I can stay up. But like what I'm learning through my alcoholism is like, it's the first drink that takes me out. Like, it's just like such a simple concept, but it's like, it's the first drink that gets me drunk because I just, you know, and especially it was progressive, like towards the end there, like I would get loaded like after like 2 or 3 drinks. Like it was crazy. Like it would, I thought like the longer you stay alive, like the more alcohol you can kind of handle, but it was like kind of acted in reverse. Like I would just start getting so sloppy, and after like a couple drinks, and then I would keep drinking, and it was just, drinking got really bad for me. You know?
Miserable.
Yeah.
So now you go to rehab. You get called in, or do you have an intervention?
So, the boss of mine, you know, we talk about planting seeds. At some point, he had talked enough about his own recovery journey that I had an idea. Now, not for me, right? Not a solution for me, but that worked for some people. And then I also knew a girl who had gone to rehab and they couldn't fire her because she was in treatment. And so I'm teetering on like losing everything. And so I'm like, I'm going to call my boss and I'm going to tell him I need to go to rehab. And what had happened up until that point is just complete and utter chaos. My mom took my keys away from me for my car because she was afraid that I was going to drink or not know how much I've been drinking and drive the kids somewhere. My Arya's dad was just on, it was bad. And I couldn't function. Every day I was like, at first I was just going to stop drinking. And then I realized physically I could not, like just shaking, throwing up, like sick. And I was like, I can't not go to work because then we don't have a place to live. And, you know, who's going to do all this other stuff, right? Because I'm doing it so well that nobody could possibly replace, you know, me as my kid's mom or, you know, anything else. And I just, that point of desperation, I knew not only that I could not keep living this way, but that not only did I not want to, but like nobody deserved this version of me. Like it was so bad that I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't say suicidal in the sense that like I wanted to be dead. I would say that I just could not live anymore. And I just didn't know how to make it stop. I didn't know how to make it stop. And I knew some remedies, right? Or things that could potentially help me with that process that people wouldn't necessarily assume, like, you know, could easily overdosed, and people would be like, well, she's a drug addict, so not shocking. But I had thought this stuff out. I had thought it out enough that I think it scared me. And the only thing that I could think of in this place where I'm like, I'm gonna lose everything, is to call this boss of mine and to save my job. I was on the save my own ass like tour, right? Like how do I just figure it out for right now so that, you know, I can, I don't know, wrap my head around what else is going on. And I was drunk when I called him and I told him I'm going to rehab. I called my mom drunk and I was like, Mom, I need to go to rehab. My mom comes and picks me up, and, you know, they have an intake person that you go to. So I went to Milam. So the intake place was in Seattle. So we go to this lady, and she's like, when was your last drink? And I had drank, I don't know, maybe before I even got in the car with my mom to go to this place, I had a drink. I don't remember the extent. But, you know, they do your blood alcohol, whatever.
You got to be below a certain level to get admitted.
Right.
Yeah.
I was not.
Right. So then you had to go to
Then they say my alcohol was so high that medically they didn't advise me then to be below. So I, in treatment, went into detox first.
Yeah.
So they tell my mom, you need to keep her drunk, basically, until the bed opens up, which was like 24 hours later. So I'm at my mom's house with my kids because Ari's dad's, I don't know where he was, what he was doing. My stepdad, my kids, my mom, and the doctor's advice to my mom is like, you need to keep your daughter like somewhat intoxicated until we can get her into treatment. And that was hell. I mean, I think that was the first time that my mom like really realized the extent of like what was going on, because she got to see how much it took to keep me intoxicated for 24 hours. And then she got to see me function rather normally until I couldn't, right? Because it was like that balancing act with that much alcohol in my system. And I think all of those components combined, she was like, wow. And so she drops me off. I was I'm drinking, trying to pack for rehab. I think I'm going to be there 28 days.
Correct.
And I know that they have a washer and dryer. I think I had like one outfit in this bag.
Come on.
Like one pair of underwear.
Yep.
I packed like I was going across the street for a minute and would be right back.
Right.
But I didn't care. My mom kept being like, Kristin, like you're gonna, and I was like, I don't care. Just get me there. Like, I don't care what I look like. I don't care if I, I don't know these people. They don't know me. I do not care. Just get me there.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole, I had to drive myself there. And I remember just being like, so just, I don't give a fuck. Like, I just remember packing the bag and just the waving, though I was just surrendering to like, this is it. I'm done. I don't know what done looks like, but if I got to go to a facility where they're going to keep me for 28 days, and mind you, I thought I was going to be there 14 because I was special. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that big of a problem. But it wasn't a fashion statement. It wasn't like I'm packing my best Jordans. I'm not, it's a wrap. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so you stayed. Did you meet Kat? Do you know who Kat was she was the intake director at the time? Mm-mm. Anyway, go ahead. So you go 28 days. Man, that shit was bullshit though, huh? That shit saved my life.
I always say it's like
that shit was some bullshit.
Being in county jail. I did go to jail in sobriety.
What?
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I always say it's like being in county jail and like 6th grade summer camp all at the same time. That treatment, lining up to use a payphone.
Quarters were
and
king.
I'm somebody. Right?
Oh yeah, we know about you.
Once I get in there, right? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't belong. First, I cry for like 3 days straight. Come on. Because I'm like, I feel so sorry for myself. Yeah. Like, it's not just the kids, the 3-month-old, 4-month-old, and 3-year-old I have at home. I'm sad for me because, God forbid I have to be in this kind of environment. And they got me fucked up with the food. They got me fucked up with the bed situation. I called my mom. You know how they got you on blackout, so you can't call people to come pick them up, right?
3 days.
The second I had rights to the phone, I told my mom, I was like, come pick me up right now. And she's like, you told me when I dropped you off that if you made this phone call to hang up on you. So I'm hanging up. And I was like, I don't remember that. And she's like, that's fine, but you said it. So she hung up on me probably, a handful of times. And then I started talking to some people, and then I started hearing some things. And I was part of the purple group.
Brown group over here. I was brown. Keep going,
It was once I realized that we talk about in the rooms, the similarities and the differences. It's so easy when you're looking for one or the other. But I just heard so many people tell my story, just say the same thing over and over and over again. And sometimes the consequences are worse, and sometimes, the bottom wasn't as low and blah, blah, but the story, right? The disease was the same. And I remember they brought a doctor in, right, on the whiteboard, and it's like family night. You can invite your family to come, and they sit, and they can hear this doctor, like, explain the disease. And until that happened, I just thought I was a piece of shit. I thought that I had no willpower, that I was a shitty mom. Like, if anything was enough, a mother's love. Like, the things that I thought in my mind that I would do behind my kids, right? And I can't even stop drinking. Like, that's crazy. And I hear this doctor describe the disease of addiction. And I'm allergic to carrots. So if I eat a carrot, my throat swells up, my voice sounds funny. I don't die immediately, but it could potentially happen depending on the amount of carrots I ate. And so I have this analogy, and I have some information. And now I'm like, maybe there's more to this. Maybe if I could stop wallowing in some self-pity and, like, take my head out of my own ass, maybe there's something here that could help me long term. And that was the day that it shifted for me. Because until then, I was in treatment for 28 days, and then the rest would be what it was. I had no plans to, like, I just needed to, like, dry out. I needed to just get away. I needed some time to figure it out, get my mind right, whatever you want to call it. I hadn't made myself any promises, but I did make a promise, apparently, to my mom to do the full 28 days. And so, that place saved my life. For real, that place saved my life.
Me too. Me too. There was no, I think the thing that changed my life, and see, this is where Rudy stepped into the sobriety without treatment. And, like,
didn't stay sober. Like, I mean, sometimes I feel like maybe I did need a treatment center at some point, but you're right. I did come in with no treatment center, but at the same time, like, man, you guys have stayed sober. We all kind of came into sobriety around the same time, and I haven't stayed sober.
Yeah. Now, but the point was that when the only way that I feel like I'm here today is because I went through treatment, right? There was nothing else that I had figured out to I couldn't sit down. I could not, and I couldn't find a different ship than the Titanic. I was on the Titanic a long time. And every time I just switching seats, find this, I gotta do this. But there was nothing like sobriety, like sit down, shut the fuck up, and don't use drugs, and see what happens, and get a program. They'll show you, give you all these tools, and they gave me all these tools that they would remind me of. That was like, and by the way, when you leave here, it's your job to pick them up. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be there to be like, okay, you eat at 8 a.m., you go to lunch at noon, you go to meetings every night, you do this scheduled like behavior that they were trying to ingrain in you. But there's something that you had said that was like I'm somebody in here. Like, I remember walking in that motherfucker like, I'm somebody. And all these other people, they got a real problem, but like we need to figure this one out here but I'm somebody. So then that means that I'm special. I need special arrangements. I need more quarters than this guy. I need to be, more time on the. And then it just dawned on me that if I kept thinking that way, it was going to be the same show outside.
So how did you feel when you left that treatment center?
Well, at that point, I had found that it wasn't about me anymore. Like it wasn't like I had my son and my wife on my dresser or on this little nightstand. Every night I would like look at them and there was this moment of like surrender of this part. Me and the roommate, we were his name's Zach. Zach and I, lights are out. It's like being in a cabin or some shit out in the woods, right? With your homies as a young man. And you're talking into the wee hours of the night, and he's like, "Man, are you drinking the Kool-Aid?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. Are we drinking the Kool-Aid? I don't know." They're saying that everybody in here is an alcoholic addict, possibly. But the only way that we can make sure that we are is we have to admit it to our own self. And I remember there was just that moment, like, that question kept coming up every night. "You drinking the Kool-Aid yet?" And we were joking. And I was like, "I think I'm drinking the fucking Kool-Aid, bro. Like, I think I'm an alcoholic addict." And so when I waved that white flag and knew that, like, it was, I had to do what they told me to do, or else I'd be the 9 out of 10. Because there were stats they'd give you that were like, "Yo, you're one out of 10 people in this fucking place who stay sober." There were 90 people in that place. That means 9 out of the 90 are sitting here like, we stayed sober. What the fuck? How about everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I just think about that. Like if I would have came to a treatment center like 6 years ago when I first came to recovery, because I'm coming up on 2 years, and it's going to take me 6 years to get 2 years. And it's just, I just had to, like, the process has been really long and stretched out for me to come to that surrender. And I don't know. Sometimes I just think about that, though. What if I would have went to a treatment center, like, right off the bat and then just came out with, hit the ground running like when you came out? And I don't know. I think about that.
So something that you don't know is that our spiritual advisor and I had a conversation. That conversation was after that 5th of July. I said, "Man, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. He might, what's up? Are you interested in treatment? Because if this doesn't work for you, I think it would be a very smart, Alvin, I think it would be a very smart thing for him to go to treatment and see what it was like." But you know what's crazy? Guess what? Today's, you're still
yeah, still, but my work would have paid for it, and but I don't know. I got good community, and I'm getting all the stuff that I probably would have got from a treatment center, from you guys, and from different places that are, just a recovery community in Seattle has been stepped up for me. But yeah, you're right. That 5th of July, I was a little on shaky ground.
Yeah, I just remember being like, because Alvin comes from treatment. He got sober through treatment.
Right.
I got sober through. I don't know any other way, man. I didn't know the way that you went. I was like, "What the fuck? Does anybody?" He knows he hasn't been through treatment, right? Like, that shit saved my life. Are you? And you'd stay sober. And so then, so you're saying it saved your life, right? As we went into a little. Because, see, treatment gets me all fucking excited. It gets me excited because it saved my life, and I hate it. It was the best day of my life. I walked in there, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Do you still have your picture?
Yes.
So do I.
Yes. And it looks rough.
Terrifying.
Mine is like blurry.
If that
and
won't
like,
keep you sober?
Yeah.
God damn.
So what's crazy, too, is that the counselors see that picture when they look at your file.
When you get cigarettes, when you get anything.
Like they're like click, and it's like, and there's your, and you're just like, come on, bro.
Like, come on. On the first day.
Can we redo this 14 days in?
I asked him to like retake. He was like, "Here, what do you think?" And I remember him turning around. I'm like, "John, what?" Like, he was like, "Well, that's just what we're going with." And I was like, this is really bad, man. Like, this is just not okay.
That's a good reminder for you guys, though, to keep that.
100%.
Did you know, though, that, like, it was, like, that low? Like, for me, I thought there was, like, yoga and massages and like, a gym. Like, did you, it sounds like you didn't research it either, though.
No, I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And it was shocking when I got there, to be honest. But also, I don't know. It's where I needed to be. Whatever kept me there.
Come on.
Wasn't me.
Right.
But it was definitely where I needed to be. And I think people who are able to stop without treatment are fucking amazing.
That's what
I'm
saying.
I'm sorry, you did what? Like, you just came into an AA room on your own accord?
Right.
Like, nobody. And the crazy part is like, when we start talking about this, is like, those conversations weren't being had with me. Like, when we think about AA and stuff like that, and how it's like portrayed on, like, in Hollywood and on movies and stuff like that, you know, you're meeting in a basement or whatever. And it just, being sober was never the option. That was never even in my consciousness that was the thing that would fix all this. I was trying to figure it out every other way. And so when I get in treatment and they're like forever, like, you just don't ever drink again, I'm like, the fuck?
Right.
Like, this isn't a, you know, like, maybe, and I remember putting a time frame on it. And they have you do some exercises, right? And they're like, think of the worst possible thing that could happen, and we still don't drink. And I'm like, what? Like, you know, I thought of all kinds of crazy outs. I've given myself, so if this were to happen, and it just, you know, the farther along in the program and stuff like that, you don't have to think that way. But, you know, sitting in treatment, and they, you know, you have to admit that your life had become unmanageable. And that was like where I was stuck. That I didn't want to admit that I was powerless. Too much pride, too much ego, right? People are damn near taking my kids away from me, and I still can't, like, get to the place where I'm like, I am powerless over drugs and alcohol, and that my life is completely unmanageable. And I'm just, they have you write your first step in treatment, right?
I mean, hold on. They have you write, like, your history of drug
your history.
use.
They call it the first step.
Yeah.
Exercise.
Yeah.
I left 99.9% of everything I had ever done. So I'm in treatment for alcohol, right? Nobody needs to know anything else about anything else. I don't owe it to anybody, and why would I? Like, at that point. And so I write this bullshit, you know, just very high bottom, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like I'm a wino or something, like one of those ladies in Bellevue, like, I thought, no.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And my counselor called me out and was just like, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, until you're ready to get honest, like, I mean, I can't help but, like, say, like, this probably won't work for you. Like, you're not doing it the way that it's intended to be done, and it just probably won't work. And I'm like, it sounds like a challenge. Like, you know, being the percentage out of that room, that sounded like a challenge to me. So I get out of treatment, and I stay sober in spite of people, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Correct.
Like, you've now challenged me, and
100%.
I don't back down from a challenge, and I'm
100%.
extremely competitive. And so now I'm just doing this to prove people wrong.
Correct.
They give you that AA booklet of all the meetings in your area. And it wasn't in my area, and I don't even know why I ended up there. But I go to Donut Dunkers in Cherry Hall, and I have Lennox, Aria's car seat, the stroller, and Lennox. And I, like, that room is packed. Like back then,
To the gills.
packed. Like standing room only,
Right.
packed.
And you're late.
I'm late. I got all this shit. People start moving for me, right? People start standing up, taking shit off my arm, you know, trying to get me a spot. And I'm like, this is different. This is different. And I went to that meeting every Sunday. I still do. Not every Sunday. Sometimes I miss a Sunday. But it's my home group. It's still where I go. And treatment saved my life. Cherry Hall kept my life saved. But for 2 years, I was just going to that meeting. I was doing IOP too.
Yeah.
I had to do outpatient.
3 days a week? Or
Yeah,
two?
I think phase 1 was 3 days. Then I got into
Yeah.
phase 2, something like that.
and then-
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was bullshit, but whatever. I still think that program could be so much better, but you know, I'm very opinionated about everything. So
Which location did you go to?
the one in Seattle.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to Renton.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Did
because
you
there's
like
like
it?
hell yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I had some very special counselors. They were like, you're bullshitting.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, yeah, that's you said that's some bullshit, Pete. You're lying.
No, these people.
And I'd be
are
like,
soft.
fuck you, man. I'd be like, you motherfucker. Fuck you for telling me I'm lying.
Yeah.
You know, I remember
But you were.
Yeah, my first day out of treatment, I went for the intake interview at Renton, and my wife and I, Courtney and I, were in this meeting with Marlon, and his name's Marlon, and Marlon. So we had this meeting, and it's cool, cookies and cream, and he asked Courtney to leave, and she leaves, and he's like, "All right, hi, my name is Marlon, and you can tell me anything." But if you continue to act like you just did when she's in the room, like as far as like we're on the up and up, man. Look, you're gonna be in for some tough times here. So anyway, yeah. So I had my own experience, ILP.
Yeah. Everybody was getting drunk and high there. I mean, I was just like, this doesn't seem like a safe atmosphere. And maybe I just didn't want to go. And I probably part of that too. And I was like, I was very much of the mentality that I did the thing. So I was at the meetings because I had to have my slip sign for IOP.
It's
right?
embarrassing.
Very embarrassing. Because I'm like, I just heard that person chair and they don't have to have a slip. And I'm like, you know, and nobody knows what your slip is for.
Correct.
Like it could be court mandated
Yeah.
or either way, embarrassing.
Well, you always know that if you have a slip, you're like new.
Right.
Like you're a new guy or person.
Yeah.
So I know what we're talking about. But yeah, that's it's like a tell. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
At least it was for me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man. But then what was crazy was I would come into my IOP with like the whole thing. At least for me, I'd have them all filled out, and then I'd turn them, and then they'd be like, "Damn, Pete, you been going to some meetings, bro?" And I'm like, "Yeah, doesn't everybody?" Man, Cass was like, "Man, my slip's in my car. I forgot my slip at home." And I'm like, wait a second. Are you guys not going to meetings? Like, this is ridiculous. This is kind of shady.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
But are you guys grateful for the slips now that you look back at
Oh,
it?
it's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
I was responsible
Okay.
for my recovery.
Yeah. Any accountability
Yeah.
was exactly what I needed. Because I forged that slip anyway. The only actual meeting I went to was Donut Dunkers. And that wasn't enough to be getting the slip. One a week was not the mandatory amount.
Well, it was two.
Yeah.
It was 2 a week, and I just remember I just knew. See, for my situation, I was off of work, and my sole job
Yeah.
was to go and become a recovery, like get sober, man.
Yeah.
You have all the time to get you. So like I was blessed with this beautiful. I remember being in the halls, and cats would be like, "Pete, I got some extra work for you," and I'd be like, "Actually, I'm good. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I just need to stay sober, and I need to like like hang on here and just focus on this. And I just yeah, it was crazy because that was my job. My job was to go to 12-step meetings, and like that was it.
That was it.
And that was scary. What was gonna happen when I went back to work? That was my whole fear.
Well, and see, I'm sitting here thinking about what if I had all that free time? Yeah. But I got out of treatment on a Friday and went to work on Monday.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was working in an office by myself. It's just like daily being in your head, like constantly just being in your head. But here's the thing, like I did the thing. I said I was going to get sober. I'm sober. Like what, but besides my requirements, right, for outpatient, like there's really nothing else I need to do. And I remember I had a conversation with my family. So my mom had gone to Al-Anon. She, she wanted to understand because she's my mom and she's amazing. And she wanted to have some healthy boundaries and she wanted to know like what to do if this doesn't work out because chances are it won't, and how she could like support me without enabling me. And she did the right thing. And so she was vocal about that. Like she was talking about it at work and telling people, and she would say, I hope you don't mind, but I told so-and-so that you just got out of treatment. Or I would come over to the house and people would be like, so how are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm here and I'm not drinking. So what else? And I got so mad. I got so mad that it was like, I did the thing that I said I was going to do. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And don't talk to me about it. And don't talk to other people about it. Like, why do we got to tell everybody the business? And I stayed in that for a really long time. But I do remember just having this, like, I'm sober now. So that's it. I wasn't listening in the meetings, obviously. The part about getting a sponsor was a no-go for me. Like, I didn't let people tell me what I was going to do. And the way they explain sponsorship at Cherry Hall, it's like that sit down and shut up mentality. Like, and I'm going to run your life, basically, is what I heard. And I was like, nope. And so I didn't. And so COVID happened and I stopped. We can't go to meetings, right? Cherry Hall was the only place I went. Now I'm not going there. They want you to go on Zoom, but I'm like, fuck Zoom. I definitely don't want to be on a computer more hours of the day than I already am. But it was also just a really good excuse for me to just kind of slip into the background. Like, nobody's going to notice that I'm not there when the meetings are on Zoom. Nobody's going to notice that I'm not around. And that was probably the biggest lie I always told myself, is that people wouldn't notice if I wasn't there. And with all the kids and the baby carriages and the things, And so, do we say names on here? Do people say names?
You can.
Maybe I won't.
Go ahead.
So somebody in the program calls me, and she calls me on the phone. And she's an old timer and has a lot of years. And I'm like, I don't have her number saved. I don't know who's calling. But I answer. And I'm at work on Capitol Hill. Mind you, in this 2-year period, things did get better, right? As far as like, I was able to save some money. I was able to write a professional resume and get a new job, making more money. So because I was sober, my parents let me move into their rental house next door. So some things got better outwardly. But inside, I was dying. I mean, I think there's moments that I was worse off like being sober and not working a program than I was when I was being drunk, because I had to feel, right? I'm not numb anymore. I don't have this solution that worked so well for me until it didn't. I'm not doing anything else. I have no other solutions. So I just sit with my shit all the time. I don't want anybody to talk about my problems, because I'm sober now. So I haven't apologized to anyone. My apology is that I'm sober. Like the rest of it is not up for discussion. Just fucking miserable. Just miserable.
That's pretty intense. Like if you think the present is like, I'm sober, so everybody else like get off my back. All that other stuff. Okay, now I'm sober and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to apologize for anything else, because I did the thing. And I don't want to talk about it. Like, don't even bring it up. Like, people, I'm sure, like, my parents or whoever was like, now that she's sober, maybe we could, like, talk about how this affected me. And I'm like, don't fucking talk to me.
Right.
Like, I just didn't want to take any sort of responsibility still. And so they talk about white knuckling it, right? Like, shit. I was holding on to something for dear life, and it was like killing my soul. And so I have this good job. I'm making good money for what I'm doing. Like, I advocated for myself in that job. And I'm fucking miserable again. And there's only one solution that I have. And I'm like teetering, right? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm too proud to get drunk or high, because then somebody's gonna find out. Then I would lose.
Right.
And Carrie calls me. You can edit that out if you want. But somebody in the program calls me. She's got some time. I don't have her number saved. I don't know who it is. And I'm in this apartment. And I answer the phone, because it could be a contractor or somebody else. I had all types of people call me. And she says, hey, Kristin. And I was like, who's this? And she says her name, and she's like, where you been? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, we're still meeting on Zoom every Sunday, same time. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, you haven't been there. And I was like, no, I haven't. And she's like, well, what's the deal? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, why are you calling me? Like, I had not in 2 years made enough connections in the program where I even understood what that conversation was about. Like, there was an accountability there. She's like, why haven't you been in the rooms? I'm worried about you. Like, saying it the way she says it, but I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, did I violate some, like, AA? Like, was I supposed to pay some money? Like, why is she, like, I didn't even know what the phone call was about, because I hadn't gotten involved at all. But somebody noticed that I wasn't there. And she was like, and really, like, I'm just nosy, and I just want to know what your deal is. And in that moment was the first time I ever told anybody, even slightly, my entire story. I had lied in rehab. I had lied on my first step. I didn't have a sponsor, so I didn't have anybody that I needed to be accountable to. In an apartment, at work, randomly on the cell phone, right? But this place of desperation that I didn't even know the extent of it until I let everything go. And she was like, well, I didn't expect that. And she's like, do you have a sponsor? Who's your sponsor? And I was like, no, I don't have a sponsor. And she's like, well, that's a problem. And I think maybe that day, maybe the next day, she had made a phone call. She found out where I lived. My sponsor lives in the same city that I do. Whatever happened in that moment, right? my God, higher power, however you want to say it, has consistently worked through other people in this program, and shown up for me in that way, because I had no willingness to do it myself. And once I realized, which took some time, that that's what was happening, I was like, oh my God. Like, so many things had to work out in this certain way that had nothing to do with me. I wasn't working that out. Like, I had removed myself. That shit had nothing to do with me. And people talk about a spiritual awakening or, you know, whatever happens. And I was just like, there's evidence now, because I'm of the educational variety, that there might be a possibility that there's a power greater than myself, that there's something out there that's trying to help me even when I'm not helping myself. And something changed in me. And even the way I heard people in the rooms changed. It was just, I wasn't hearing before, or, you know, I was hearing, but I wasn't listening. And so I start working the steps, and I start being honest, and I start allowing people to talk to me, and I start staying a little bit after the meeting, and I start giving people my phone number, and then I have a community of people that understand even better than I did at the time what I was going through. And when you talk about, you know, let us love you until you can love yourself, that was my experience through and through. I think Cherry Hall has a lot to do with it. I think that's just also AA. It's not the same everywhere. It doesn't feel the same everywhere. That's why Cherry Hall has the place in my heart that it does. But all of that combined, I just felt there was like this, the white knuckling, whatever it was, this thing, like I'm just holding on for dear life, is like, I can just let go. I can just let go and just do the thing, right? The next indicated step. And I'm going to let somebody else tell me what that is, because if I try to think it up on my own, based off evidence and my past experience, I'm going to fuck it up. And now I trust this person. I trust that this person knows better than me because she's done it, right? And so we get into the book, and she is just making this shit come alive, like just animated about, like so excited about AA. Pete, I remember you being the same way. I was like, this
you're gonna make me
guy
cry.
is really excited about AA. So excited. Like, why are you so excited to be here? This was like, I'm not trying to tell anybody I'm in AA. And Pete's like, this is the coolest place to be. Yeah. And I was like, they have something that I want, right? I'm missing something. A big component of this whole thing, I'm definitely missing it. Why'd you cry? Tell us why you cried.
Because if it wasn't for him, I would have never. I don't think I would have seen it come alive. Like it wasn't. It was just this lame piece of. It was just another book, and I don't read books. And I can and he brought me to this dude, this man, that was so excited about this shit. That this dude like just does this shit all day with everyone, all the time. And I was just like, come on, man. all day, all the time with someone. Like, come on. And the first time we did it on Zoom. It was Zoom, and I'll never forget like getting off the phone and calling him. And I was like, why did that just feel like a movie? I never, because see, my experience had been like I'd read it, not understand any of it, but I'd read it. So then it'd be like, check, I can read, I'm good, you qualify, nothing would happen. And I kept doing it. Just read, check, qualify, and I think I did it, the thing. But then it wasn't until like this guy, he wouldn't even let us read. Like, it wasn't that he wouldn't let us. It was just that he would like, he would like incorporate my name and his name, and we're in the thing and we're in the movie, and like we're not stars, but we're just like characters in it.
What gets me is just like the people, like you're talking about your sponsor, and like these people are just so genuine that this like this is the shit right here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, fuck it, like what you were doing before this. Like, this is what's happening now. And just being so passionate and so, like you say, excited. And it's just like, it's just so relatable to like, you know, hear their stories and hear like where they came from and how like, you know, they live like very, you know, the lives, they're not like lame people. Like they're very relatable. Like they're with the shit too. Like they came from the shit, and I came from the shit too. And now this is the new shit. And it's just, I don't know. It's I get excited too because Pete, you're passionate about it. You're passionate about it. You know, that's the reason we want to make this podcast, just because, like, I don't know, it's just something we're excited about. And, you know, it feels like the right thing to be doing. I appreciate you coming on today. Like, it's been great.
Yeah, but just to go, well, see, you have more time than us. You have more time than us.
Yeah.
And, like, well, I didn't know this part of your story. I thought you had been with the shit for a while.
No.
Yeah.
No, I was anti-shit for a while.
Anti-shit for a while.
You know, you start working with a sponsor and they start telling you things about yourself that you can't even see.
Yeah.
And that's what kept bringing me back. Like, my sponsor would be like, there's just something different about you. Like, the light's coming on in your eyes. I couldn't see that. I didn't have anybody else that could recognize that same thing. But yeah, she just, the whole deal. I mean, through and through. And I know it's not just with me. I know she does it with everybody. And she loves it so much because it works. And this thing is, you know, it's not a lifestyle choice. Like, we're not like all of a sudden deciding to get healthy. Like, we're trying to save our fucking lives.
Yeah. Right.
And when somebody sits you down and cares that your life is saved, a stranger, that's crazy. That's crazy. The people that I met that were doing the thing that I was doing, sober or not, give a fuck if I lived, died, or otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, that was insane to me. And I was like, this is it. This is for sure. Whatever this is, I'll do it, because I've never had this before. Like, from somebody that wasn't my mom, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, we kept at it, and yeah, I, you know, got through the steps, had to make some amends. That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
Start apologizing, taking some responsibility for your part in things. And that's lifelong, right?
Yeah.
I still sit down and I'm like, ooh, you know, you start thinking about things, sitting here today talking about things, and I'm like, oof. Not that I'm adding people to my amends list, but maybe I should. Maybe there's some things, you know, and the longer you're here, I think the better your intentions get. And at least for me, that's been my experience, is I am intentional about most of the things that I do in my life today. And the thing about being intentional is it can't be spontaneous and it can't be sporadic and it can't be, because once I start getting down towards the chaotic spectrum of like making any type of move, I get comfortable. And if I'm comfortable, then I'm not, I don't even know how to say this. I feel like the more comfortable I get, the more complacent I get.
Perfect word. Go ahead. Keep going. Yeah.
And so if I'm operating at some level of discomfort consistently, then I'm not operating in my own will, right? I'm doing things that I don't necessarily enjoy doing 100%, which means it's not coming from me, really, because the shit I like to do, the shit I'm really comfortable with, it is not what I'm doing here today. It's not showing up on a Sunday morning and driving from Des Moines to Seattle. It's not meeting with my sponsees. It's not, making those phone calls. That's uncomfortable. Now, the longer I do it, the more comfortable it gets, but I don't ever want to be comfortable. That's how I know I'm doing the right thing. If I'm a little bit uncomfortable, because then I know that it doesn't come from me.
Yeah, that's where the growth is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. That was very magical, like for real. Because I've noticed as of late, like being really uncomfortable, but like being okay. Like it's this taking God with me thing.
Yeah.
God, will you come with me? Yeah, all right. But this is really an uncomfortable place. Are you sure you're coming? Like, I don't need to go if you don't want to go.
Right?
Like, it's this negotiation, and it's just just man, knowing that you're in this uncomfortable place, that's crazy to know you're doing the right thing. That's crazy. Like, who would ever thought that that was what we were going towards in life? Of like, let's be as uncomfortable as we can, and then we'll know we're doing the right thing.
I mean, doing this has been very uncomfortable for me, like from day one. Like, I don't like being in front of the cameras and stuff, but me and Pete have talked a lot that it just feels like this is the right thing to do to bring people like yourself on and share your story, and hopefully it'll help somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to share before we get going here? What's up?
Has it been that long already?
I don't, man.
Mondo,
what are we looking at?
Yeah, we're in like 2 hours in.
Stop.
Okay, yeah.
Damn. I can really get to talking
yeah, okay.
when I'm talking
It's
about
okay.
myself.
Yeah, it's all right.
Damn.
We'll be keeping this going, but go like as far as
man, if you're even questioning. See, here's the thing. I think this is what I would like to say. Alcohol is a drug. And I think for the longest time, I was so stuck on the fact that it was okay because it was alcohol. And what society will tell us in like social media and everything else is that like alcohol acceptable because it's legal. And alcohol is a drug. It's a mind-altering substance. And I think what would have been so helpful for me and could potentially help somebody else is that if you have wanted to stop anything, and can't, that there may be something more to that. And that more is that we have a disease that we were born with that makes it impossible for us without some type of assistance, and whether that's a 12-step program that you bring yourself to, a rehab facility, outside help, whatever that looks like, we need the help. And I think that's the part where like we don't regret the past, right? Or wish to shut the door on it, but like had I known, and that's the part that I want people to know, that like alcohol is just as much a drug as any other drug. It's just legal. And if you think, that you have a problem, there's a solution. And just not drinking is an option. Like people do live like that. That's a real thing. And I know a lot of them. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristin, for coming today.
That's
Yes.
right.
This is man, what a great experience it was for us to have you on today. Mondo, thanks for having us at Color Studios, and Rudy, man, thanks for I love you, man.
I love you guys.
I love you, man.
Love you both.
Man, that she brought up something that was inside of me there. I was like, man, you done saved a guy's life over here, man. Help save a guy's life.
Man,
So I
that's
appreciate
God.
you,
That's
man.
God.
Exactly. Come on, say it.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
you both.
Yeah.
Love you too.
All right.
All
Sober
right.
champs.
All right.
Oh man.